And yeah, I'm here and really glad to welcome you all to our first virtual launch conference and to the first session here. Really excited to welcome these librarians from Elizabeth City State University, and they're going to be talking to us today about other duties as assigned, adapting your professional skill set beyond the typical library work. And I'm really glad to welcome Mary Jordan and Cynthia Horne here today, and their colleague Juanita Midget Spence, who worked on this with them as well. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and they're going to talk to us. And then if you have any questions, if you could please put them in the chat, and we'll share them at the end of the session and see what we can all learn today. So thank you so much. Mary and Cynthia, please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to turn myself off, but I'll be right here.
I am going to share. Oops. Good morning from Elizabeth City. For anyone who doesn't know where Elizabeth City and Elizabeth City State University is located, we are the gateway to the Outer Banks on the north end. So we are really close to Virginia Line, and we are really close to the beach. And we like to say we get all the benefits of living and working at the beach without having to deal with the tourists. So, yay! My name is Cynthia Horne, and I am the Access Services and Assessment Librarian, among other duties. I've been at Elizabeth City State for over 5 years, and I've been in library department management for more than 10. And this is, if you ever have a chance to work in a small library, you'll know that you wear many hats. And so I wear many hats, and so does Mary.
Yes, I am the Technical Services Librarian and Collection Development Librarian at the same time. And so I've been here about 18 months, and I've been working at a university library roughly about 10 years. So, and very much in similar subject area.
Dr. Spence sends you greetings and welcome. She had a little bit of something come up that pulled her away, but she also welcomes you anytime you're in the area. Come by and see us, and contact us if you have any questions, or if you want to just, plumb our minds for information. Feel free to contact us at any time. Our contact information is going to be at the end of the presentation. So we went insane about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. We got a little over $4 million from the NC Connect bond to improve the library. And after some assessment, we figured out that improving the library with that money meant making a lot of major repairs to the building. So this has been a crazy busy number of years in our Viking land for the library. A lot of things have changed. A lot of things have just been up in the air and crazy. So we're going to give you a little bit of the history and the scope of the projects, and we wrote it that way because it's under the umbrella of one major project, but we had to break it down into smaller bite-sized chunks, as it were. And we've learned a lot about change management. We learned a lot about our own adaptability, and we've been able to use some of our skill sets that maybe weren't coming fully into play in the library world. We've used those skill sets to really create a lot of order and discipline and out of the chaos that has been our lives for the last few years. So we're going to kind of walk through all of that. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Again, our contact information is at the end. And we are very supportive and very collaborative, and we believe in when one rises, we all rise. So please hit us up if you need more information. So before Mary came along, we got this $4 million for the repairs of our building. The construction and design people had some goals for the building, some stuff that had to be done on the building to get it up to a state standard and a state code. And they sat down with us a little bit and said, what would you like to get out of this? And so that's the stuff that we highlighted in red there. And they were able to add a lot of this stuff into the overall project by tweaking the things that they were doing a little bit to incorporate this. So,
Cynthia, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
real quick. I don't think we're seeing your screen.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's why I was like,
oh, well, shoot. I know, I swear I know how to use Zoom.
It's totally fine. I didn't mean, yeah. When I realized that we were.
Ah, okay. Well,
There we go.
yeah.
now sharing. Oh, there's screen sharing. All right, well, let me go back. So there's my beautiful first slide. Here's the beautiful second slide. And we're here.
Okay.
Sorry. Ah,
You're good.
Mondays.
It's good. It's great.
So the stuff in black is what the construction people's goals were for our building. And the stuff in red are the things that we asked them to please incorporate. The biggest thing that we asked is we wanted it to look fresher, cleaner, neater, and we needed more floor space for students. And there's only so much that they could do on their end. And we figured out that we would need to do some things on our end to really maximize that benefit. And one thing was we needed a big weed. Our collection had never been weeded in a major way, only in very small targeted areas. And it was old. We had a significant number of books that were really old and had no history of circulation, and were not relevant to the current academic programs. So we decided that while they were prepping and making all their plans for the repairs, we would do a big weed. During the big weed, we figured out that we really needed to do an inventory. This collections had never been inventoried. And, that led to us planning an inventory in the timeline of our projects. And just recently, we've added the possibility that we may upgrade our collections to an RFID system. So even though we're in the middle of this and we are up to our necks busy, we're still looking down the road and how can we optimize this major event for the optimize it for the library and for the campus. And the way this timeline works is we got the money and we started planning the construction. And when we started planning construction, we started planning our big weed. We set our criteria and we started working on it. And we were actually working on that when Mary came on board almost 2 years ago. We very much modeled our big weed over Appalachian State's, or based on Appalachian State's big weed in their Belk library. And it's just the most amazing and fortunate thing in the world that Mary came on board with us because she was very involved in the management of Belk Library's Bigweed. So she came on board as we were kind of closing out and getting ready, getting to the point where we had to pack up the library so that they could do all of these repairs, because it was carpet off to the studs, take the ceiling out, kind of repair on this building. So the books had to be packed up and taken out of danger. And so we did that. They started the repairs, and we started planning how we were going to get this building put back together, and reopened. And we are currently in that phase. We are unpacking. Today, we got our certificate of occupancy, and it is officially our building. But we are about 200 boxes from being done unpacking. We are 80% of our new furniture has come in, and we're close, but we know we still have another month to 6 weeks before we are ready for patrons and students to start walking through the door. We still need to do a shelf read. The books are only very basically in order. We need to do an intimate shelf read. We still need to do that inventory, which we are planning in coordination with the shelf read. And then after that, while we're working on that, we're going to try and look for sources of funding for upgrading to an RFID program. So, this is kind of our big timeline, but, there's little things that are in there. We wrote a major grant to try and get equipment for the archives, in amongst all of this. And we've written 2 or 3 small grants. We've started a new collaboration with the campus radio station to house their archives and their legacy technology. So in and amongst all of this, all of the regular library and archives work has still been going on, but these have been the projects that have been on our timeline for the last 3 to 4 to forever years, right?
Yep.
So change is hard. People don't take change well. But change is the word of the game right now in library world. We are constantly evaluating and modeling ourselves to be what our patrons need us to be. And on the college campus, that we're changing from that book repository, that book storage place, to being a place, library as place, or library as a destination. And there's more going on in our walls now than just studying. So, the library having the library out of use for our students is huge, and it's really upsetting. So we've had to communicate. And I believe that our communication right now is the best that it has ever been. The communication pathways that we have to faculty, to students, to the rest of our campus, to our administration, and among each other, is the strongest that it's been ever. We have a really effective team when we weren't disrupted by all of this. We got stuff done. We were collaborative. Everybody brought all of their best to the table. But with this, our team has changed. Our team dynamics have changed. Our relationship with our faculty and our students have changed. So we've had to do a lot of communicating and set up a lot of communication pathways. And that has been a very positive thing that has come out of this. But in the form of managing all of this change and making sure that everyone was buying in, we had to tell our story. And, luckily we had a lot of data and we had a lot of statistics that we could show, this is where we were and this is the direction we want to go in. And, here's how we're going to do it. So it was the combination of that hard analytical data, usage data, age of the collections, things like that. And then the anecdotal dream of down the road of having a more mobile collection, having more modern, more usable, younger collection, having a facility that was less about storing paper collections and more about supporting our students in every way. It helps for us to have both that hard statistics and the data and the dream, and be able to verbalize those. So we've done really good. The statistics. So we've had to learn, and we've been very transparent and open. Our website has come into a play. When we were doing the big weed, we had a subject guide set up for the professors to go in and look at information, and they could review lists on what we were going to get rid of. They could recommend things that they would like to either have stay, or maybe areas where they would like us to grow the collection a little more when we started buying. And always, we have stayed positive. We've highlighted the benefits. When this is all over, we're going to have an archives classroom. We're going to be able to handle classes up to 40 people. We're going to have group study rooms. We're going to have more floor space and more open space for students. We're going to have more floor space so we can do traveling exhibitions, and we're going to have the wall space is going to be uncovered so that we can host art exhibitions. So we've always we have very consciously stayed positive, not only in the language that we use, but the tone that we use it, because you can turn a positive negative by just the tone, and highlight the benefits. Mary loves to say she chants, but it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. Normally, this is when we're really super dusty and sweaty and hot and laying on the floor trying to figure out how we're going to get one more ounce of energy to finish this project. And she's over there chanting, "It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful."
Students going to love it. It's going to be amazing.
So our adaptability has really been pushed. We're used to do it. Luckily, Mary knew how to do a big weed. I had to learn. I had to learn without her, and then get her to come in and fix the mess that I made. I'm used to doing small targeted weeding. You learn in library school, how to do a weeding, how to keep collections current and vibrant and relevant. And, doing a big weed is like taking that and putting dynamite to it. The sheer volume, just the sheer volume. And then it comes with a lot of other problems. So you have all these books that you're getting rid of, and we got rid of some 30-something thousand.
I think it's about
45,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot of books. And, we've struggled with how to get rid of those items. You can't just drive them down the street to the recycling center. That's a volume that most recycling centers are not prepared to take on. And unless your region has a strong recycling infrastructure, you may have a hard time getting your books recycled. The covers do not recycle. So in essence, to get a book recycled, the recycler has to take that cover off and take the book block out, just the pages, and that's what recycles. And that's a lot of labor. It's a lot of labor and cost to the recycler, and most of them don't want to take that on. So we've struggled with this. Hang on. So we've struggled with this, and it's just been crazy. And then, you know, you've created so much space that you have to think about repositioning the books on the shelf, and how do you want to reposition them? What kind of growth space are you putting at the end? Where do you want the empty, you know, floor space to come from? Do you want it to be in that section or that section? And we've had to do a lot of learning on that. So we also have the question about Better World books. We are a UNC system school, and Better World Books has a program where they sell books. And we were told that we could not use Better World Books because they sell the books and make a profit, or sell the books for money. And these books are state property, and there's only certain things that you're allowed to do with them. So your situation in your school, if you're doing a big weed or even a small weed, may be different. So check into that. But we had to, because of the volume that we were working with, we had to get the state property management people intimately involved. And they said no to Better World Books. They said no to, there was another program that we were going to use. And yeah, it's a nightmare. It was a nightmare. It was crazy trying to figure out what we could do.
And another thing that you need to add is that, you know, with the recycling, you may have to pay a little bit to get rid of them. So you have to, do you have the money to actually recycle it? So
yeah. So yeah, 45,000, and we had to temporarily downsize from our 45,000 square foot building into a 2,000 square foot office space. And that included some compact shelving and service desks and offices, and we're packed in like sardines. It's not a great place, but it has great windows. So we had very limited space, and we had to support our academic programs and our students. So we pulled lists of the most checked out, the 1,000 or something most checked out items in our collections, and we pulled those and we took them with us, and then we walked the shelves. All of the librarians walked the shelves, especially our liaison areas, and we pulled the most relevant items, trying to think about having a collection of about 5,000 to 6,000 books in the temporary space. So we consciously pulled the most current stuff and made sure that we had a really good spread of coverage, and we took that with us. But we had to be very realistic on what we could, because we were constantly still acquiring. And so we had to shelve those books too somewhere, and we had to, you know, have room for students to come and sit down and use the computers too. We couldn't just like load the whole room up with books. And it's also important to mention, just as an added headache through all of this, we're going through our 10-year SACS reaccreditation. So we have a spotlight on us because of that. So And we had to help, with all the accreditation software, with all the accreditation reports and things like that. And, we had to prove that we were supporting the students and the faculty and the campus through all of this. And we've been given a little bit of, breathing room and play, but, we're on a timeline and we're on a time crunch, and SACS will be here next week, and they need to see that we're able to pull a book off the shelves and give it to students when requested, and for us to be able to get a credit. So no pressure. So as far as our adaptability, both of us, Mary and I are both, we're a little bit OCD, a little bit, but funny enough, we're also very artistic. So we have this ability to look down the road and envision what we want at the end. And, just like in lesson planning or program planning, we were able to walk that vision backwards and break it down into smaller steps. So when we were planning the packing process, we were actually looking way down the road at how we were going to unpack that collection or the collections. How did they need to come out of the box would determine how things went in the box. How did things need to be on the pallet so that they came off the pallet properly to ease that process and make our lives as easy as possible. It was not just a matter of going in and just putting everything in boxes and putting it on pallets. We had to very consciously decide how we were going to do that. So we pulled in our OCD and our artistic talents, and we pulled in everything we had to plan this and make our lives as easy as possible in the long run. So, come on, there we go. This is probably 5,000 in these two pictures, maybe 8,000 books. These stacks are 5 foot tall, and these are 2 different hallways. These are small single study rooms on the side that we tore out to get more floor space. But our big weed was we selected things that were published before 1995 that the library had owned for at least 10 years and had 0 circulation records at all. And that's how those 3 criteria got us to our 1/3 of our circulating collection reduction. And we had to do more later. We'll explain that. That was a nightmare. But when I started the Big Weed, I would produce lists of materials that met this criteria. Oh, oops. I would start with stuff that met the criteria, and I would have students go and mark the books, and then technical services would grab them and process them out of the collection. Don't use red dots. Don't use dots at all. It's a bad idea. We're still finding dots. You'll never get rid of the dots. Skill set refinement, we've talked about that a little bit. We brought all of our skills to the table. We have really become experts at identifying stuff that is dust versus what's mold. Mold basically looks like dust wearing a puffy jacket. Every collection is going to have a little bit of mold on it. Ours, when we unpacked, had a significant amount of mold on it, which increased the amount of stuff we weeded out because we did not put badly molded stuff back in, but they were without any environmental controls around them. The books were in uncontrolled environment for about a year, and the top layer in the centers, those boxes developed a good little mold colony. And we've thought about, the placement of our furniture in relation to the bookshelves, make sure there's some kind of little gap there so that maybe the dust settling on the books is a little bit less and is more manageable. And we got a grant for some new furniture, and we walked this space so many times and to try and envision what new furniture we wanted for the newly opened floors and how we wanted that flow to go for students and envisioning that for them. So we definitely recommend walking that space and physically experiencing that space like your students. These are some palletized. These are pallets. We wrapped them for water leaks. We wrapped them to try and protect them some from, as much as we could, from the construction dust. And those are heavy. Those almost 3/4 of a ton each, and it is very difficult to move. We labeled everything. You can kind of see our OCD coming into play in all of these things. Make lists of everything. And when we started creating the unpacking, we decided that we needed to be able to identify these boxes, and we decided to use chairs instead of book carts because we were getting rid of a bunch of chairs. And this was a genius idea Mary had. Thank you very much, Mary. And so you put a box on the chair and you roll it over to the shelf and you unpack it. And it's very easy to keep them in box order and keep going. And this was genius. You cannot use everything that you can. You do. So a couple pictures of the mold, nice little colonies of mold that we discovered. Don't worry, those totally went out the door. They did not. They went back in a box and went out the door. They're not on our shelves. So some random tips from us. Manage that change. Be very proactive in your communications. Be very proactive in your advocacy and your information exchange. And do your best to be a part of all of that planning that they do on any projects that's impacting you. Just like we did with Appalachian State, leverage those around you who may have done this stuff. Know who your partners are and don't be afraid to ask for some advice. We have nearly killed ourselves with what we've taken on. We've exhausted ourselves. I broke my wrist. I've pulled muscles in my back. Mary has bruises all up and down her arms. Be realistic in what you take on and what you advocate for yourself to do. Be organized. List, and then don't lose the lists. We realized we should have made more lists from the get-go, and we're regretting it now, but we moved on. Be active. Talk it up. Ask people what's going on. If you're not at the table, ask what's going on at the table. And be flexible. Your dynamics are going to change in the workplace. Your relationships with your campus are going to change. Your work duties are going to change. Librarianship is very much a mental game, but it's also a physical game. You just have to, it's not other duties as assigned, it's sometimes do what's necessary to get things done. And, if you go at it with that attitude, there's nothing you can't accomplish. And when you're planning on a project, of course, walk through the motions, or, if you're planning a program, walk through the activity or walk through, the lesson plan and make sure it makes sense. practice and just model it. So this is us. This is Elizabeth City State, and we are a small team. We're an effective team. We love to share. We are very supportive. So please, 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 please contact us if you have any questions. Whoops. If you need anything. And oh, question popped up.
Yeah, there's a question about the where you got your grant for the furniture.
I am friends with one of our foundation managers, and she had a contact with with the Canon Foundation, and she called me and said, hey, there's a foundation that has a couple $100,000 that they are giving away to support, I forget exactly what it supported, but she found it. The foundation people found it and called me and said, what does the library need? I know that's one of our big, ongoing projects. What do you need? And like, we need furniture. We're going to do all these repairs to the library, but we're going to put all the old, janky, nasty furniture back in there that's been in there since the 70s. So we need new furniture. And she's like, I'm on it. So I worked with her, and she worked with a couple other places, and she managed to write a grant using library data and statistics that I gave her, and furniture ideas that we gave her. And the Canon Foundation gave us $200,000. The university kicked in another 50. So we managed to get a significant amount of furniture for and store Steelcase out of Raleigh. They understood our vision, and they had a lot of discussions with us, and they managed to optimize that $250,000 to get as many seats and seating options, and it's beautiful. It really is. A lot of white. They did not consult us on the white. There's a lot of white tabletops. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, so there's just 1 minute left. Any last minute questions today? Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you so much, Cynthia. And do you have any last comments for us? Someone commented, this is a huge task and required so much cooperation. Your project sounds like it'll be very rewarding. Hope you'll share pictures when the dust settles.
Yes.
And just saying
thank
you.
We will share pictures. We've had to keep it that end goal. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to positively impact our students and our student engagement. And in the end, all the sweat and the broken wrist, they're going to be worth it, because we're going to positively impact the lives of our students. So do what you can. And we are not at our phones. So if you have any questions, best way to get it out of us is emailing us, because we are actively unpacking the library.
I would add also learn how to break down the shelves, and have a sense of humor when you're really tired.
Yeah.
Nerf guns.
Nerf guns. We have Nerf guns.
Thank you both so much. We have just a 5-minute break, and then the next session will start. You can find those links on the conference webpage. Thank you again, Mary. Thank you, Cynthia. I hope that y'all take care today as you continue unpacking. I hope you can maybe watch another session or two. I look forward to visiting. See you soon.
Bye-bye.